Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports in the Mix with the Crew. My name is Cedric Bailey, and we have got to talk sports again. I know we was just on here the other day, but we got to come back. First of all, Kevin Simon, where you at, man? How you doing?
Great, man. And things move fast in the sports world, so we had to put another show together.
We had
Doing
to,
good.
man.
Yeah.
And I found out that Dre is on assignment. He's out really celebrating because Atlanta Braves won the World Series. So he said, I finally got something right.
He got something right, yeah.
Yeah. But to fill in, we got the one and only Santoria Black. What's up, Sam?
Sam, man.
Greetings and salutations. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, we got to start it off. First of all, Kevin, did you know that Deion Sanders has been in the hospital and still been there for 2 weeks?
No, I had not known that. So what's going on
with Coach
Prime time? Yeah,
Coach Prime. Make sure you say that,
Coach Prime,
because he will look you down in your face.
Well, yeah, he gets mad if you don't dress him. Yeah, it's Coach Prime, don't it?
You don't call Nick Saban Nick, so
don't call him Deion. Yeah,
ain't that right, Sam? Sam?
Absolutely. Yeah, you better call him Coach Prime. But, look, Deion, I know, had foot surgery. There's speculation out there, but I do know he had foot surgery, and they had advised him not to coach on the sideline as he was recovering. So, he's been in the hospital now for a couple of weeks now. So, for at least for a week or so, he's going to miss this game. So I think it's just a question of now, maybe, it's a speculation of infection. Could be a lot of other things, but he is healing in the hospital in Jackson.
Gotcha. Now, who's in first place in the SWAC West and who's in first in the SWAC East?
In the SWAC West, Prairie View right now is in first place by virtue of a Southern University win over Alcorn State with a last-minute 47-yard field goal to end it on last Saturday. So that means that Prairie View is basically a half game up in the driver's seat. And then if Alcorn beats Prairie View next weekend, Alcorn goes up a half a game because of the head-to-head tiebreaker and virtually would win the West if they can beat Jackson last week of the season. On the other side, Jackson is a full game up because of the head-to-head battle with Florida A&M. Of course, FAM lost that game week 1 of the season. So FAM needs some help. They need Jackson to lose and then lose again. Whether that happens, I don't know. The best to me right now, the only way that I think that they'll lose is Alcorn, but they're going to need more than one loss in order to capture the SWAC East, and they have to win at the same time.
All right. Now, Kevin, Sam was down there when they had Stephen A. Smith, Kevin Hart, and all them folks down there at homecoming at Florida A&M in Tallahassee. Man, what was it like, Sam?
Well, the guys actually had to tell me about it because I was actually doing television for the Southern and the Southern and Alcorn game. But I was following the videos of my guys, and I'm telling you, it was bananas down there. I don't know how they got 31,000 into Bragg Memorial Stadium. I haven't been there in a lot of years, but it ain't changed that much. And for them to get 31,000 in there, man, there wasn't room for nobody. So if you had some hips on you, you was gonna get squashed because it was packed in there, and there was probably another 15,000 around campus. So it was just absolutely incredible. They got a lot of dedications out. They had, millions in donations for that institution. So they really had a great weekend when it comes to putting on a show.
Man, they sound like they needed to move that game over to where the Florida State Seminoles is playing, if it's going to be that big,
Well, they were, they've been approached by that, but, it's like a lot of these ADs say, there's nothing like playing on your own campus.
Yeah.
And having your own stuff, and I agree with that. Eventually, I think because of the crowds that you're going to have at FAM, look at FAM and Jackson, they would have never been able to hold that game on campus. Yeah. Pretty soon, you look at what they did with this Grambling game. When Southern comes back there, it's going to be tough. Prairie View, they may have to make some improvements over there at that stadium in order to accommodate all the people that will be there.
Yeah. Now, we heard about the incident about the young senior that's in the band, and the band had to go back home. Can you tell us in details what happened to this young person?
Yeah, a kid that plays the bass drum in the World Famed Tiger Marching Band. Thursday afternoon, there was already an accident on I-20 going east. Unfortunately, a semi slammed on the brakes because it wasn't paying attention, and then subsequently, the young man's car, he had to slam on the brakes, and he crashed into the back of the semi truck, and of course, he passed away. And so, the band, after they found out, which they found out later on that evening, around 6 or 7 o'clock, there was news going around that, hey, there was an accident, a second accident out on the interstate. And, when you have something like that happens, I mean, this kid has been all over social media. I mean, he took big pictures with Beyonce when they were out there, from Shreveport, Louisiana. So, so many of these kids knew him well, were friends with him. And so the band really wasn't in any condition to travel all that way and try to play. I think that the Florida A&M did a great job by dedicating a wreath to him before their halftime show started, honoring him. And they were very, very understanding of why they couldn't come to the game. You hated that. Of course, they wanted to add them to the homecoming festivities, but of course, really understood why that didn't happen.
I understand. Now, speaking of crashes, Kevin, bring you back in the conversation, man. Henry Ruggs III. How do you go from being a national champion for Alabama A&M, getting drafted, and going to the NFL and playing for the Las Vegas Raiders, and now your life has changed in less than 48 hours?
Yeah, life comes at you fast, and it can change in a split second. And obviously, this is what's going to happen to Ruggs. In fact, the victim is no longer with us, so her life is done. And so prayers for her family. But yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes, but most of them don't get anybody killed. And so it's just a bad decision to get behind the wheel of a car. First of all, you're drunk. And second, you're driving 156 miles an hour, 127 when on impact. And so I've never driven that fast sober, let alone with, on alcohol. And so it's just a bad decision. It's a life-changing decision. He's got a tough road ahead.
And he had a young lady in the car with him.
Yeah.
And then the person who died, she was 23, Ruggs was 22.
They're all young. Yeah.
Yeah. And the lady had a pet in the car, and they died upon
The
impact.
dog died. Yeah. The car burst into flames on impact because he hit the back of the rear end of her, basically. And the gas tank exploded. And so the vehicle caught on fire and killed both her and her pet. Again, going 156 in a Corvette. And his passenger, she had surgery in her arm, I believe is what her injury was. And I think she's still hospitalized. Ruggs was released and taken into custody, showed up in court today and released on bond, I think $150,000 bond. But he's on home detention and, obviously can't drink or drive right now. And so it's a life-changing situation for Ruggs.
Court date is November the 10th.
Yeah, the least of its concerns is football right now. And this probably ends his career. And I say probably because the first person I thought about was Dante Stallworth. You remember he hit a pedestrian while he was legally drunk. And he only got a 30-day sentence. Now, he settled out of court with the family of the guy that he hit and killed. And had to sell his mom's house that he bought to settle to help pay for that settlement. But he only served 24 days out of the 30-day sentence and tried to resume his career. Actually stayed around for about 2 or 3 seasons afterward. But his career was essentially over after that accident. This is, this is even worse than that because, the speed that he was traveling, and you can make a case for Dante that the guy ran in front of his car. And most legal people tell you that Dante probably had a good case to beat it, but he took responsibility and went and paid. So this is a totally different situation.
Derek Carr and Hunter Renfrow have already reached out, or they have, they was asked a question in their media day on this past Wednesday, and they both said that they were going to be there for him. As a matter of fact, he had texted them that day asking about some tips on golfing. And during that time period, and that's the second time Derek Carr has had to come forth and speak, first about John Gruden. That was emotional, and now this situation.
Well, yeah, he's the quarterback, so he's the leader of the team, whether he likes it or not. And so that guy Ruggs is going to need some support from teammates and everybody that around him, because this is going to be it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so we'll find out how much legal trouble he's actually in. And like I said, football is the least of his concerns at this point.
Sam, what do you think, man?
Well,
Santoria?
look, unfortunately, I've been around a couple of these accidents where collegiate kids have died because of either someone was being reckless or they were being reckless. This is one of those life-changing events, because not only were you in an accident where you had a passenger who was hurt, but you cost the life of somebody being reckless. And unfortunately, we're seeing this all too often, to where you have, the world at your fingertips, and people feel like that they're invincible at times. And, I couldn't even imagine going 156 miles an hour. I mean, I haven't owned a car that can go 156 miles an hour. So, to go on impact and you're at 120, 130, I mean, that is just incredible. I mean, I just can't even imagine. So, I think that you were right, though. He's going to need support far beyond just the legal troubles and the civil troubles he's going to have. This is the kind of thing that can stick with you for the rest of your life because of the problems that you had with, that you took somebody's life. So it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend, too, her family is going to be upset with him.
Well, he's facing legal problems with that too, because he got her hurt. He didn't get her killed, but he got her injured. And so he's facing charges for that situation as well. And it's made worse if you remember, we talked about this a while back, is that the NFL's partnered with one of these rideshare companies. So any NFL professional player can call up one of these rideshare companies and get a ride if you're intoxicated. Of course, this guy was, I think, coming from a party and again, driving 127 on impact. But again, you got to take advantage of those rideshare situations and not drive drunk, man. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. But it happens, as Sam said, it happens over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, look, I'm going to tell y'all something, when I was about maybe 2 or 3 years old, my dad's brother, my uncle, he died because of a drunk driver. And in that accident, not only did my uncle pass away, but so did the father of the guy who was driving. So 2 dads were lost that day, 2 sons survived. And so, that hit my family when I was very young in age. And so it's really tough when you see something like that. And, prayers going out to all of these families, because multiple families' lives have changed because of this. And people really don't understand how far reaching something like this really is, and how this just changes the entire situation. If this woman had kids, we see when you have catastrophic situations, we just did a study of this on campus, where if you have a parent that dies suddenly, it changes the trajectory of the child if they do not have a good support system. So, I'm really praying for these guys.
Right.
All right, now, Sam, I got to ask you the $100 million question. Why did they have video or audio of your quarterback, who just played a great game, Aaron Rodgers, asking him, did you get your COVID shot? And he said, yeah, I got it. And then he comes down with COVID and he's shaking everybody's hand. So that means we know now how Devontae Adams got COVID-19.
I don't even know how to respond to this. First of all, I want to ask everybody to put Aaron Rodgers' brain on the altar. And because right now it's listed on the sick and shut-in list at the local Baptist church. And then, for you to, now you contracted this because you didn't get a COVID shot. Now, Cam Newton was cut because he refused to get a COVID shot. Cousins was threatened to be cut. A coach was told, hey, go home. The problem is that because you've allowed him basically to run the team, you had nobody that was going to be able to go and say, Aaron, if you don't get this shot, you're going to be off the team. Who was going to do that and lose their job? So now you got him that's got COVID. Lazard was on the COVID watch list. Then you had Devontae Adams, who had COVID. This is all just carelessness. And as much as I like Aaron Rodgers and I want to see the Packers win, those are the kind of decisions that you make that just mess everybody up. So, like I said, pray that his brain gets off the sick and shut in list, because that was just the dumbest thing that I've seen. And, and that just goes to his arrogance. And that's what, as a person, I've never really met him before, anything like that. I've talked to him one time when he first got in the league, when he substituted for Brett Favre when he got hurt in Dallas. But that's what bothers me about Aaron Rodgers, his arrogance at times.
Who's saying, yeah, I told you? His family, his brothers and sisters.
That's exactly right. So I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. The advantage that you have in this situation is Kansas City has an underperforming offensive line. Their defense has been trash for a little while. Hopefully this is not the weekend that Patrick Mahomes puts down the Tonka trucks and starts throwing the ball like he really got some sense. Otherwise, we're in real trouble.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I mean, it's bad enough that he didn't get vaccinated because it's a team sport. And fighting a pandemic is a team sport. Everybody has to be on the same page. So it's bad enough that he didn't get vaccinated while trying to play on a team. But then the audacity to lie about it, as if at no point somebody wasn't going to find out. And so when they asked the question if he was vaccinated, his response was, yeah, I've been immunized. Okay, so he basically just misled the people into believing that he was vaccinated, when it turns out it looks like he wasn't. Now, the issue is that you turn around and get the whole team sick because you're not vaccinated, then there's a bigger issue. And so that's where the Green Bay Packers are headed now.
Well, and they're probably in the rankings. I know they're top 10 without a doubt in the rankings. They're in the AFC North division. Who's your backup, Sam?
Are you serious? Jordan Love.
That's
Jordan Love, yeah.
The same guy that basically you told that he was garbage. His mother is a snowblower. You're no good. And all that. Now you have to say, hey, can you come in the office? We need you to win a game this week. I mean, this is why you got to get a solidified backup that you're not throwing to the wolves. And everybody's talking about, well, he played preseason. Dude, he played backups. He played a bunch of folks who was trying to make teams and college players in preseason. He didn't play any starters in the preseason. That don't count.
Wow. Well, the NFL now has reached out to the Packers, and they're going to have to pull out their checkbook now, ain't they?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, you committed a cardinal sin by, first of all, allowing this man to lie about you had the vaccine. And then the second thing is that that he didn't follow NFL protocol.
That's right.
And so you not only put that team in danger, but you put the team that they just played in danger as well, and the one that you're getting ready to play, because who else knows who else may have the cooties on the team? And all of a sudden you have to explain that if somebody on the teams that you played comes down with something because of what you did. That's just really selfish. Yeah. That's what really makes me upset about it.
It's selfish. Yeah. He put everybody at risk. And again, fighting a pandemic is a team sport. You don't get vaccinated for yourself. That's part of it, but you get vaccinated for the people around you, so you don't infect them. And that's kind of where we are. The New York Giants are fighting an outbreak now. They're having COVID issues. And so now Green Bay is facing the same thing.
Wow. Well, we got to take this break. We got to come back. We got to talk college football, because you know what? Tyrone Willingham and the whole crew have really let everybody know what they think about these teams. And we're going to talk about it. You're listening to Sports in the Mix with the crew. I'm Cedric Bailey, Santoria Black, and Kevin Simon is in the house. Don't you go nowhere, folks, because we got more on the way. So keep it right here on the Big Game Christian Sports Network. And welcome back. Segment 2, Sports in the Mix with the crew. Cedric Bailey, along with Kevin Simon and Santoria Black hanging out. Dre will be joining us in the third segment because we got to go over our picks and everything. But Santoria and Kevin, we got to pick it up. We got to talk about, first of all, we got to go a little bit more about Major League Baseball. How in the world did the Atlanta Braves, to you, Kevin, how did they pull this off and win the World Series, man, after they beat your Dodgers?
Well, they got off to a really slow start. In fact, they didn't get it turned around, I think, until game 111, but they got hot at the right time. And that's kind of what baseball is. And you're pitching and you're hitting has to be on the same page, has to be clicking. And for the Astros, who had the best offense in the regular season, was anything but that in the World Series. Their bats went cold. It got shut out 7-0 there in the final game. But that said, to be honest with you, truth be told, it doesn't feel right to me. It wouldn't have felt right to me for the Astros to win a World Series after about 3 years ago being caught for cheating. So I'm okay with them not winning it all. I was actually rooting for Dusty Baker, and he's an ex-Dodger. I root for all of my ex-Dodgers. But I was not necessarily rooting for the Astros, but they're one and the same. You can't root for Dusty without rooting for the Astros. So once it was all said and done, man, I think it's right. I think a couple of more years needs to pass before the Astros wins the World Series again after that big cheating scandal that kind of messed up the league for a season or two.
And Dusty also played for the Braves too. He's good friends with Hank
Started
Aaron.
with the Braves. Yeah, he and Hank Aaron were pretty good friends.
Yeah.
I think he started with the Braves, ended up with the Dodgers, like I said. And so, yeah, I root for him, and I was praying for him, hoping that he finally got over the humps, because he's one of the winningest coaches in all of baseball in the regular season that hasn't won a World Series. I think that he's number 12. The 11 guys ahead of him all have won World Series. So I was kind of hoping he would finally get over the hump. And that just didn't happen. Not their time. And again, I'm okay with that, because the Astros, to me, it's too soon for them to win a World Series after that big cheating scandal.
Yeah. Well, Dusty did a good job. He played everything. I mean, he did a sensational job. And then Santoria, we did the SWAC baseball tournament down in New Orleans, and you had the opportunity to talk to our good friend Ron Washington, who's from New Orleans, who was the third baseman coach for, of course, Atlanta. What did it mean that you see Ron out there finally getting a World Series ring after going there twice? What do you think about that?
The Rangers, yeah.
I remember when Ron took out time to talk to our students from Grambling State University when we went to see a Texas Rangers game, and just how authentic he was and how down to earth that he was. Fiery, still had a lot of fire in the tank and all of that. But I never forgot that moment when he sat there and just took out time to talk to our folks. And to see that guy win a World Series, I'm not the biggest Braves fan, but to see him win one finally, really, it was really special, because I'm like, that guy took out time for our kids, and now look what he's doing. He's celebrating a World Series. And, even one of my students who remember going to that Rangers game that day, remembered him winning, them talking to him is like, man, was that the same guy that talked to us that won that he's winning the World Series? And they say, yeah. So it's a special moment when you see a guy like that who takes out time for you winning like that.
And baseball, you start in February, you go all the way up till November. So you spend more than a half a year in the sport.
Baseball is a long season. Yeah, it's a long season. I got a chance to meet, I don't know if you know about this, Sid, but I got a chance to meet Washington. They used to have affiliates day over at Rangers Ballpark, where you worked at the radio station, you can go and take batting practice and all of that stuff, shag some flies on the field and all that stuff. And I got a chance to meet Ron Washington. He came up and gave me this big old bear hug, like we had known each other for years. And I took a picture with him, and I've been rooting for him. I was rooting for him before then, but certainly after that, I was his biggest fan. And he got close to winning a couple of World Series with the Rangers. Again, couldn't get over the hump. Was one pitch away, as we talked about, against the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, and simply couldn't get over the hump. So he's paid his penance, and I think it's time for Ron Washington to get another manager's job. Hopefully that'll happen this season.
Yeah, go back to the A's, man. That's where he was at.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, his first base coach is down there with Dusty, and that's Gary Pettis, who's down there with Astros, So definitely, we want to see brothers in there doing some great things.
Absolutely. Not enough of them in there. So you got to root for the one the few that's in there. So yeah, hopefully he'll get another shot at managing. All
right, now here we go, Sam. We're going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about college football. Here we go. The state of Texas has got at least 6 or 7 teams that were ranked on the college football poll, on the AP poll. But the CFP did not see it that way, because they told the SMU Pony Express, nope. And they told the Houston Cougars, no, you're not in there. Yeah, they went with all these schools. So what you got, Sam? Break it down.
Well, when you look at the top 4, all right, the one thing that I don't see, that I was extremely disappointed about, is how in the world does Cincinnati nor Oklahoma not get in the top 4? Mm-hmm. Not only does Oklahoma not get in the top 4, but the message that this committee has sent is, no matter how many games you win, you're not going to sniff the championship. You put Michigan, who just lost to Michigan State, at 7. Mm-hmm. All right. So there's 2 things that can happen here. The only way that I can see Oklahoma or Cincinnati coming up at this point is this. Alabama's got to lose the SEC championship and the Iron Bowl. Oregon, which their loss was to Stanford, I don't see them losing at all unless they lose the rival game, which is the Civil War against Oregon State. Now, the Ohio State and Michigan State gig washed itself out because they played the second to last week of the season. And then Michigan State, after they play Ohio State, they'll play Penn State. So that's going to work itself out. And then Ohio State plays Michigan. So between those three teams, I think that'll wash itself out. You'll get one person from the Big Ten. If Ohio State loses, they drop. Cincinnati moves up. Michigan, if they lose Ohio State, they drop. Maybe Cincinnati moves up or Oklahoma moves up. But now that's the question, is that Oklahoma and Cincinnati can win out. The Big Ten champion is still going to have a spot, possibly, depending on if Ohio State can knock off Michigan State, and then Oregon. So you're going to have one of those two undefeated teams or both that don't make it, which is a real crime. And I think they send a message that we don't care about Cincinnati. We don't care about Oklahoma. We care about what we see. And we're not talking about ADs that are from a lot of these power football. These ADs are from like Iowa and Georgia State. And there's a professor from Arizona State. Todd Willingham is on the team as well. But, I don't understand the logic of any of that. And like I said, Oregon to me doesn't belong in the top four. Ohio State is way too high considering who they lost to. And so, Michigan, I think, is way too high. There's no way they should be in front of Oklahoma. Right. I think they're the one that's probably going to get the real shaft at the end of all this. Even if Cincinnati makes it, Oklahoma can go undefeated and they will not get in.
But Oklahoma got a tough schedule, and I'm going to talk about that.
The rest of the way, They got a tough schedule the rest of the way. Oklahoma has played some games, some close games that they should have been blowouts. Tulane comes to mind. They played a close game against Tulane and against Kansas, really struggled against Kansas. That said, they should be higher than all of those one-loss football teams except Alabama. They should be ahead of Oregon.
Yeah,
they should be ahead of Ohio State and Michigan. So they should be ahead of all those teams aside from Alabama, those one-loss teams. Since Oklahoma, they have struggled, but they're undefeated. But as you mentioned, they've got a tough schedule coming up, and so we'll see how they fare.
And we're going to break that down. But let's talk about the SEC. Now, who's in the best in the SEC West, and who's in the top in the SEC East? So that's Georgia and, of course, Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't they got to go to the SEC championship game and at the stadium down there, Mercedes Stadium in Atlanta? So I guess Georgia gonna have to win that game, and Alabama will drop down to 4, right?
We'll see what happens. Alabama's, they're not done yet. They'll surprise you. Now, Georgia to me is head and shoulders above everybody else except for Alabama. They're just that good. They blew out a Florida football team this past weekend. So Georgia's a really good football team, and we'll see how they fare against Alabama, because Alabama has a way of making good football teams look average. And so we'll see how that shakes out. But they're a good football team, and they'll meet somewhere down the line.
Okay, then. So we'll see what's going to happen on that. And no matter what happens, even if Alabama loses and they went straight on out and they drop, they'll put them at 4. I guarantee you that they'll do that and say, well, we'll put them on the other side of the bracket, so they won't have to go against each other. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, they got to play Iowa State.
Tough game this weekend.
Yep.
They got to go to Baylor, down to Waco.
Tough game. And Baylor's playing some good football. Beat Texas here this past weekend. They're another one-loss football team. And
then they got to go into Bedlam in Stillwater. So that's 3 tough games.
Yeah, they got 3. They got a tough schedule the rest of the way, and they can't afford to get off the slow starts like they did against Tulane and Kansas. And so it'd be interesting to see what happens, but they do have probably one of the toughest schedules going forward of any team in the nation.
Then you got the Big 12 championship game at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, that still has to shake out. So plenty to be.
So who would the other team be if Oklahoma wins out? They're gonna play somebody twice.
Yeah, they're gonna. Well, right now you got to look at Baylor and Oklahoma State. Texas is falling off, so those are the 2 teams you got to look at. Iowa State is falling off, but they're still a very good football team. But I think you got to look at Oklahoma State and Baylor as the other 2 teams that have real chances to get to the championship game.
Well, I can just hear these boys up here in Oklahoma. Well, I'm glad Caleb Williams is our quarterback, and Spencer Rattler. If Caleb gets hurt, just be ready to go.
Yeah, well, Spencer's about to hit that transfer portal after the season. He's out of there. I mean, he was a Heisman Trophy hopeful. Now he's not even. I mean, he's on the bench now. So yeah, I expect him to be out of there after the season's over.
Yeah, tell him to grab the transfer to Grambling, Sam. Y'all put him up.
Hey, let us look. That'd be great. We need.
Yeah, y'all need a quarterback down there, dude. All right, so let me see how much time we got left before we hit this break. Oh, we got about 3 or 4 minutes, but I will say this. I'm looking forward to checking it out. We got about 2 or 3 minutes. We got to talk a little bit NBA basketball, man. So what's going on? How are the Lakers looking, Kev? What have you been seeing on them?
Yeah, I mean, it's for everybody. It's so early in the season, man. It's not enough. It's a small sample size of what these teams are going to end up being at the end of the season. The Lakers are still trying to figure out Russell Westbrook, and Westbrook is still trying to figure out the Lakers and how he fits in. I think we all thought that might be a bad match. We didn't know, a bad fit. But they can find a way to work. All of those guys are professional players, so they might be able to work that out. But I mean, other than that, you got a couple of slow starts. Milwaukee's off to a fairly slow start. Atlanta's and Brooklyn's is playing right now. They're both 4-3. Some of the teams, the Clippers, are off to a slow start. Of course, Kawhi is out. So it's too early in the season really to say definitively how this thing is going to shake out.
Well, the Lakers are right now currently holding the 5 spot with a 5-3 record. Sam, what do you think, man? Because I think the Grizzlies of Memphis, you better watch these guys. And it's amazing what Jason Kidd is doing with the Mavericks too.
Yeah, the Mavs, I think, are going to be the team that you really need to watch out for. Western Division. The East, that's going to be a real puzzle going towards the, as you get towards the mid-season point. Obviously, I'm looking for the Bucks to do amazing things. The big thing is that if Brooklyn does not fare well this year, and I mean, for them, fare well does not mean making it to the playoffs or making it to the finals. They will start to be looked at as one of the more disappointing teams. They've got all the pieces together.
Yeah. And by the way, I got to say this because Kevin's boy, Jimmy Buckets, is making some noise down in Miami, man.
Yeah, Buckets is a player. Jimmy played at TJC. If you can see my shirt, I also played at TJC. I played football, but yeah, Miami's pretty good now. They're off to a hot start. We'll see if they can keep that going. But yeah, Buckets is having a good season, but it's early. Things can change, but again, they're off to a good start.
Can y'all make room for Ben Simmons, the overrated guy that was? How come this guy can't get a break? And saying you was down there in Louisiana hearing all LSU this. Ben Simmons on ESPN, that's all I kept hearing. Then they get Zion, and he's been hurt too as well. So your comments on Ben and Zion Williamson?
Well, first of all, with Ben, I think he's just been a disappointment. But if you look at what he did at LSU, I remember when Coach was telling him, "You're not ready to go to the league yet. You don't really have a shot as far as an actual, a good jumper." And we've seen him suffer. I mean, and all the drama. He's brought a little drama to the team and all this other kind of thing. So I think he's been really disappointing from the aspect of this could have been his team, and he could have really taken over things, but he never has really worked on his mid-range jumper. And you can tell, a lot of players say that you can tell if a player has taken his offseason seriously by how he comes back. And if he doesn't improve on things like his shot, his footwork, how he moves, his technique, you can tell then that he has not worked as hard as he should have in the offseason. And you take a look at a guy like Zion, here he is, with the Pelicans, who have been a fledgling team. They've been up, down, and all of that, and he's been hurt. What you hope is that you don't have a situation where he's just this career guy that's always hurt. There was a guy like that came from Ohio State, played for Portland, Greg something, and he was just
Greg Oden.
Greg Oden.
He was constantly hurt, and he never got out to his potential because of his injury.
He couldn't even make the big three do anything. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, right.
With Ice Cube.
I'm hoping that Zion can get healthy because we're not just talking about can he help the Pelicans, but if he stays hurt, there's gonna be a lot of teams that are like, look, we love him, but how much of a chance are we gonna take on him if he's not gonna be healthy?
Yeah. Well, listen, fellas, we're out of time. Kevin,
okay.
Sam, I want to say thank you so much. We're going to bring Dre back in the conversation and break down our picks, man. And Sam, we're going to have to, you need to text us your picks. Text them to me so I can put you on the deal. I'm calling them out real quick. So now Dre is the only one that picked Kansas City to win. We all went with the Packers and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was before Aaron Rodgers situation. So Dre's pick is actually looking pretty good now.
So text us your picks, man. Okay.
All right, which pick am I doing? All NFL games or just one?
All NFL. Just
All
send it to me. We'll put you in our report on our next show. Okay.
I'll do that.
Hey, you guys been hanging out with Sports in the Mix with the crew. I'm Cedric Bailey along with Kevin Simon and Santoria Black. We got more on the way, so keep it right here.